It has been 10 years since we've tragically lost an icon. Amy Winehouse was an English songwriter and singer whose sound was a modern jazz full of emotion. She never conformed to Hollywood, she never gave in to the press, but they tore her apart until she lost her life. Her legacy continues to outshine the nastiness the industry put her through, from toxic and disgusting boyfriends to dysfunctional father figures. Amy went through hell and back. Today we will honor her life and tell her story. So let's get into it. Before we get into this video, I want to start off by saying that Amy Winehouse has been one of my favorite artists ever since I was a young boy. I love her so much. I literally listen to her on my record player. I like her vibe. I like her sound. I love her music and her lyrics. So I just want to really do well with this video. I'm starting to film it right now, so I'm kind of nervous getting into it. It's taken me a long time to do research, and I'm really trying to honor Amy with this video. So I want you guys to know that everything that we're talking about today is coming from a place of love, and we need to recognize that Amy really went through it and there was no one there to save her. But let's go ahead and start off by talking about the media, because I truly believe the media destroyed Amy. I want to share a couple of screenshots of articles I took as I was doing research for this video, articles that were made when Amy was alive, making fun of her well-being. Like this one from E! News titled, "Amy Winehouse blacks out, ... her tour," making fun of her blacking out, someone who clearly has had issues with substances. Another one, "Winehouse to rehab. Yes, yes, yes," mocking her music, her song where she says no, 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 and talking about her addiction issues. Finally, here's one last article from E! where it's titled, "Amy Winehouse fashion line. Who's buyin'?" And if you guys did not know, Amy actually does have a fashion line, and they still sell clothing. She worked with Fred Perry on this collection, and Amy was extremely proud of it. But even when she was doing great work, the media continued to mock her. Listen to what this reporter wrote. From what we've seen, the woman can barely dress herself. Seriously. She's lucky if she makes it out of the house wearing shoes. So who's actually going to buy clothes she designed? I know it's a petty comment from a petty reporter at E! News who's probably living a miserable life, but it's so sad to see even when Amy was doing well, people continued to bully her and make fun of her. I don't know why she deserved this. I guess it's because once you're at the top, the wolves are just trying to get at you. Amy was truly at the top, and when her album released in the United States, she blew up. The album was originally released in the UK, where she's from, back in October 2006, and it was a hit right away. Once the album reached the United States in March 2007, it was immediately on the Billboard charts and did really well. Her song Rehab blew up, and everyone was playing it on their radios. Of course, the song Rehab is sad to its core because it's a cry for help, and I truly believe Back to Black, her album, was a cry for help for many reasons. And I want to quickly walk through some of the songs that Amy wrote on her album, because I feel like if people listened closer, then we may have still had her around today. Here are a couple lyrics from her song. "I don't ever want to drink again. I just need a friend," begging for someone to be her friend and be there for her. In that same song, she acknowledges that she has issues with substances and says that they tried to make her go to rehab. She said no. She writes she's been back to black and she's got no time for rehab. And of course, the lyrics about her father, where he's encouraging her not to go because daddy thinks she's fine, which we'll talk about that moment in a little bit because that actually happened. But her album was about much more than just her issues with substances. She also wrote about her toxic relationship with her ex-husband, Blake Fielder-Civil. Songs like Back to Black and You Know I'm No Good outlined how bad their relationship was, and they were on and off again, on and off. And Amy became numb in their relationship. You can see this in songs like Tears Dry on Their Own, where lyrics read, "All I can ever be to you is the darkness that we knew, and this regret I've got accustomed to." That's actually my favorite song on the album, my favorite Amy Winehouse song of all time. And I think it shows how she truly went through it all alone and she had to cope with it all alone. And that's why so many people resonated with this album, not only because it was such an interesting sound, but because it was a feeling that people can resonate with. On February 8th, 2009, Amy ended up winning 5 Grammys for her album for the 2008 awards show, which was amazing for a new artist like her. Her song Rehab, which I see as a cry for help, was definitely her biggest hit yet, but still, the world failed her. We knew that she was struggling, we knew that she had problems, and it all led to her losing her life. So let's talk about that June 18th performance in Belgrade, Serbia, because as you guys know, if you're a big Amy Winehouse fan, that was her last performance. And there was a clear sign that she was struggling on stage, and there was ample opportunity for people to try to help her. Here are some moments from her concert. As you guys can see, she obviously seems like she's totally out of it. There's a whole band up there. She's got a team, a manager, people who are supposed to be taking care of her. Yet they're putting her on stage when she's like this, and obviously it's not good for her image, not good for her well-being, but people don't really care about that. It seems like they were just concerned about getting the show over with so everyone could get paid and the fans could be happy, which obviously does not have Amy's best interests in mind. A little over a month after that performance, Amy was found passed away in her home in London. It was on July 23rd, 2011. Again, 10 years since that's happened. At first, it wasn't clear why or how Amy passed away. A lot of people assumed the substances because of her long-time battle. But it was revealed that she supposedly passed away due to accidental alcohol poisoning, and her blood alcohol level was 0.416%, which is way over any type of limit out there. I have a lot of questions when it comes to Amy's passing. I don't think we have the full story, to be honest, because I do feel like there are key players in this situation who wanted Amy gone. And of course, this put her into the 27 Club, which is a club, not a stupid club, it shouldn't even be a club. I hate the name of it. It's an unfortunate list of very popular artists or actors who all passed away at the age of 27. Amy Winehouse was 27 when she passed away. And if you guys want me to talk about the 27 Club in another video sometime, leave a comment below, but it's unfortunate to see another talented artist added to this list. Like I mentioned earlier, I believe there was ample time for people to save Amy. I mean, her last performance was on June 18th. She passed away on July 23rd, and everyone around her knew that there was something going on. I mean, even Tony Bennett, randomly Tony Bennett had something to say when it comes to Amy because he saw that there were issues coming. In an interview, Tony Bennett told them that Amy knew that she was going to pass away young. He also recorded a duet with her. If you guys aren't familiar with that, definitely go check it out. It's beautiful, but he was quoted saying she knew she was in a lot of trouble, that she wasn't going to live. I feel like if I was Tony Bennett, like, you're so powerful, just scoop up Amy right there and go and save her. But at the end of the day, there's no one to really blame. They actually ended up getting a Grammy for their duet, which is so unfortunate because Amy wasn't there to celebrate it, but I know she was really excited to work with Tony Bennett. But let's talk a little bit about why Amy went through so many issues and why she was struggling not only with her fame but her personal life, because her relationship with this Blake guy was a key in her downfall. So Amy actually met Blake back in 2005 in a pub. At that point, she was early off in her music career, and he was actually a video production assistant. They played some pool together, together and took over the jukebox, according to The Sun, which I hate The Sun, but they're always reporting on everyone's life, so at least we have some sources out here. But at that time, Blake was actually in his own relationship with another woman, but that didn't last long because he really liked Amy, so they were together a month after they met. She ended up getting Blake tattooed on her chest, and he got a tattoo of her name behind his ear. But only 6 months into their relationship, they broke up and he went back to his ex-girlfriend. Obviously, down the road, Amy and Blake end up back together because they do end up married, but this couple really wasn't good for each other. First off, Blake definitely had drug issues, and he's been very open with that. He had them before he met Amy, and he had them after Amy, and he influenced Amy to get into some really hard substances. Actually, Amy's manager was quoted saying, "Amy changed overnight after she met Blake." So he had a huge influence on her. He said she sounded completely different. Her personality became more distant, and it seemed to me like she was down to do the substances. When I met her, she was smoking a little bit, but she wasn't like doing the hard stuff. This article claims that Pain was pretty much Amy's muse, and you guys could really see that in her album Back to Black. Supposedly, their relationship was a huge inspiration for her album and for her songs, pretty much just explaining her relationship with Blake through her music. This article wrote that grief and turmoil fueled her creativity, and it was tough being with Blake because he was in and out of jail and he was causing Amy a lot of additional stress. Like I mentioned a minute ago, they did break up at one point, and he left Amy to go back to his ex-girlfriend, which obviously left Amy in a bad place. But she did have another relationship that I want to mention. She briefly dated radio executive Alex Jones Donnelly, but that didn't last long, and in 2007, Blake walked back into her life. This time, their connection was even more destructive and all-consuming. Honestly, their relationship was not okay, and I feel like Amy didn't have anyone in her life to really sit her down and tell her, like, bruh, this guy is awful for you. But then she ended up marrying him in a secret ceremony in May 2007. It was during a secret trip to Florida, and this began their horrible marriage that really left Amy at rock bottom. But by the end of 2008, their marriage was done. It was dissolved. She was actually staying over in the Caribbean island of St. Lucia. And at that point, actually, Blake was linked to a German model named Sophie. So Amy was over it. And actually, in January 2009, it was revealed that they did divorce. And Blake actually filed the divorce, citing adultery, which doesn't really make sense because he was cheating on her, but I guess maybe she was cheating on him as well. It's actually disgusting. When they divorced, Amy gave him about $500,000, $450,000 to just get away and go live your best life. But on top of that, he wanted monthly payments. He claims he was deserving of this allowance because he's entitled to it, since she released some of her most successful songs during the 6 years they were together. Wait, what? Why would he be entitled to anything? Again, he was given $450,000 by Amy when they split up, but like he just wanted more. But after her passing, of course, Blake felt really regretful about the situation. Even though I do feel like he was kind of in it for the money towards the end, he recognizes that he's the reason why she went through this. He told a reporter that the biggest mistake of his life was taking this hard substance in front of her. I introduced her to the drugs and to her, harming and things like that. He says, I feel more than guilty for it. And it's clear that he put her through hell. There are photos out there of her with bruises, scratches, liquid on her shoes, like bodily fluids. So their relationship was horrific. When they did break up, Amy was extremely depressed. She told the Mirror, I was really depressed. I was in love with someone and it fell through. A lot of it was to do with bad choices and misgivings. We were both to blame for the split. After their breakup, Amy really didn't know what to do with herself, and she continued to drink and drink. At this point, Amy actually asked her father, Mitch, should I go to rehab? What do you think? And at this point, he said no, but that I should give it a try. So I did. For just 15 minutes. I went in and said hello and explained that I drink because I'm in love and have an effed up relationship. Then I walked out. So, why would he encourage her not to go? I mean, I think if anyone is even questioning if they should go, then her father, Mitch, probably should have supported her in that. So, of course, her relationship with Blake was a huge part of her album and her life. Actually, his brother said in an interview, they seem hell-bent on destroying each other and didn't care about dragging others down with them. It was like watching two speeding trains hurtling towards each other before a horrible crash. I do believe that her relationship with Blake did lead up to her passing away. I don't think there's any way you could deny that that did not add to the issues there, but I also know that Amy went through a lot of trauma in her life. When she was a young girl, there's been trauma, but also she was really close to her grandmother who passed away when she was writing Back to Black. And I have a feeling that her grandma, like some essence of her is, influenced her album or is, kind of part of Amy. Her grandmother's name was Cynthia Winehouse, who dated a jazz legend, Ronnie Scott. She passed away in 2006 and Amy idolized her. She actually has a tattoo of her name on her right arm. Actually, Amy's ashes were mixed with her grandma's after her funeral, so she felt an extreme bond with her and she wanted to be with her after passing away. This article actually claims when her grandmother passed away, she was recording Back to Black and it was a bigger blow to her life at that point than anything to do with Blake, and her depression really cemented in when that happened. Amy really liked Cynthia because she was one of those people in her life who told it like it was. Maybe she needed Cynthia when she was really struggling because she needed someone to just tell her what to do, what was wrong, what is right, and to protect her. Some actually say that you can attribute some of Amy's songs to Cynthia's passing because it seemed like Amy kind of knew that she was doomed. I hate using that word, but like songs like Back to Black talked about having the odds stacked against her, and Love is a Losing Game. She mentioned receiving a losing hand, which is obviously in reference to her grandmother. Amy's wish to have her ashes mixed with her grandmother's was honored, and as you guys can see right here, this is actually their headstone. I was gonna say, what is it? Not a cemetery, it's at a cemetery, but it's their headstone. And it's just so, it must have been replaced when Amy obviously passed away, but it's so unfortunate to see this. So far in this video, we have focused on Amy's relationship with Blake. We talked a little bit about her grandmother and we talked about her passing away, which is obviously so triggering and hard. And actually now I want to take a huge step back and talk about her entire life. Let's start with the beginning. She was born on September 14th, 1983, Amy Jade Winehouse, and her beginnings were humble. Her father was a taxi driver and her mother was a pharmacist. Amy was interested in music from a very young age, partly because her grandmother was a singer. She dated a jazz musician at one point, and actually all of Amy's uncles were into jazz music on her mother's side, so they all really taught her well, very well. Actually, when she was 10 years old, she stepped a little bit away from jazz just for a little bit because she was so inspired by American R&B like TLC and Salt and Peppa, and she actually created an amateur rap group called Sweet and Sour. Even though Amy was doing a lot with her life and she was really musically gifted, she was struggling because her parents separated and it was not good for her psyche. Actually, at the age of 10, the same time where she created that rap group, she attempted to take her own life. The article claims that Amy was 10 years old and tried to take a bunch of medication to take her own life because her father, Mitch, left her mother, Janice, for a woman less than a year earlier. Her dad just up and leaving her gave her a bunch of abandonment issues, and I don't think she really liked her stepfather either, so her whole family was extremely dysfunctional after that point. But she always knew that her destiny was to make music. Actually, her mother, Janice, admits that she was determined and stubborn even as a small child. But when her parents split up, Amy Winehouse declared her independence. She started getting like tattoos. She started, participating in things like substances and stuff like that. But at the same time, she was still so passionate about her music. She never lost that part of her. It was always with her, no matter what struggles she was going through. Actually, at 12 years old, she was accepted into a prestigious school called Sylvia Young Theater School. And years later, she received her first guitar. But by the age of 16, Amy was expelled for not applying herself and because she pierced her nose. Oh my gosh, she's such a savage. But that same year, fate works in magical magical ways because her song was passed off to a label and she was eventually signed. The label was specifically looking for a jazz vocalist and Amy was the perfect one. But her school definitely missed her. Actually, one of the headmistresses from that school said, "It is hard to overstate just how much she struck me as unique, both as a composer and a performer. From the moment she came through the doors at the age of 13, sporting the same distinctive hairstyle she has now." That's a theme you're going to see throughout this video, that Amy never conformed to anyone. She was always herself, always doing what she wanted to do, and I think that's why I appreciate her so much. But her first album wasn't Back to Black. It was actually titled Frank. She was signed to that record label when she was 19 years old, and the album came out in 2003, and it actually got to number 3 on the UK charts. Even in that album, Amy was giving clues that she was struggling with substances. The last song on her album, Mr. Magic, was all about substances and her issues with it, and it was kind of a glimpse to what was going to come with Back to Black. But Amy was at such a different point in her life back in 2003. She hadn't hit that point where she was, really struggling yet because she wasn't super famous. So again, the album was released on October 20th, 2003, but it didn't make it to the United States until 2007. Nonetheless, she was still getting awards and honors for her work in the UK. She actually won the Ivor Novella Songwriting Award for Best Contemporary Song for her first single, Stronger Than Me. Here's some footage of Amy actually arriving to that award show, and as you guys can see, she seems really healthy. I don't really want to talk about her looking healthy or not looking healthy. I think that's really just destructive language, to be honest, at the end of the day, but I do want to acknowledge that she seems like she was in a much better place at this point in her life, and I'm not too sure if she was with Blake or wasn't with Blake, but I'm guessing that she wasn't. Something so special about Amy, and I'll say it 1,000 times in this video, was that she was so unique, so cool, and never trying to be someone who she wasn't. Here's actually an old interview from 2004, and even this person interviewing her recognizes that she is different from the rest.
No, I'm surprised, and it's a good thing. Do you get it from your mum, your dad?
I don't know. My dad's quite outspoken. Mm-hmm. He's a cab driver.
Oh, well, that's saying no more.
Yeah.
That's it. And has he got a picture of you in the cab now? Does he lean back? Does he try and flog you out to people in the taxi?
I don't think so.
You know what I like about you as well? Is the way you sound so common. Because I am common, and it's like, it's so refreshing to hear someone who isn't speaking like they've taken elocution lessons.
Yeah. They gave me elocution lessons, but they kind of...
They didn't stick?
Off my back, yeah.
She's so funny to me. I love how those classes she took, it went through one ear and out the other one, because you cannot change Amy. But 3 years and 10 days after her first album came out in the UK, her second album, Back to Black, was released. It took some time for the album to get to the United States, but it eventually did March 13th, 2007, and it immediately did super well. At this point in Amy's career, she was everywhere. Everyone wanted to see her perform. They wanted her at their award show. Her concerts were starting to pick up, and the media was starting to pick on her because, like we've appreciated in this video, she's a unique woman, and she's not going to just change for anyone. And America has some really stiff beauty standards. So to see her walk up in here with a beehive and looking a certain way was just kind of not acceptable. And you guys know that the media loves to pin pop stars against each other, compare and contrast, and she was so different from the rest. I actually do want to play a quick interview from back in 2007 because I feel like it's absolutely foul how this man spoke to Amy, and it's a great representation of why she was insecure or, bothered by some of these people who would just focus on her look and not what she's saying. This interview went down back in May 2007 in New York City. Amy is obviously very uncomfortable, as she should be. I mean, listen to this man talk about the way that she looks.
Do you ever kind of sit back and think, look, when you think successful female artists in America, you think Beyonce, Christina Aguilera, you think Shakira. These are all very kind of polished images. These girls step out, they're probably ready for the cover of Vogue magazine. But you yourself have come out doing, you've defied convention, not just with your sound, but also with your look. Right? How important is image to your career?
I'm not really fussed. I'm very lucky that I got to make the kind of album I wanted to make. That's pretty much it. The rest of it, I'd tell everyone to piss off, so it doesn't really matter, I suppose.
Performing out to the US, you're about to play a gig here in just a couple of hours. Is there one track on the album that you really enjoy performing?
I love playing them all. I love playing Me and Mr. Jones, though. I love doing, what do I really... I like all of them.
I'm not too sure if Amy was using during this interview. I watched the entire thing and I don't think she was. I think she was just really uncomfortable and bothered by this reporter man who was asking stupid questions about the way that she looks. And she was right. She's glad that she was able to create what she wanted to create without having a big label try to force an image onto her. But there was one really cute moment inside this interview because she actually found out from this reporter that Prince said on the radio that he wanted to perform with Amy Winehouse, which is a dream come true. Watch how her mood switches when she finds out. So he's going to start off by talking about Prince's tour, and then he's going to mention that Prince wants Amy to come and perform with him.
Where he's just announced kind of 20 dates all in a row, and he's requested you.
What?
Did you not know this?
No.
So he went and did a press conference in London today announcing 20 dates. This is going to be the last time he ever performs all of his greatest hits before he goes off to travel the world and study the Bible. And he said one artist's name that he would like to come on board and perform a song with. And that was you.
Prince is going to study the Bible.
Yeah, listen, stay to the point. He's
Prince
asking
is
for
going to
you.
be a rabbi. I'm the last. I would listen.
Does that blow your mind still when you know, so many artists have come up to you and said, listen, we want to work with you to have Prince?
I'm going to Minneapolis, see you later. Prince! Yeah. I hope I can do it though. I don't know why I'm smiling. I really hope, I mean, I'll drop everything to do that.
Well, he said it only yesterday. That must blow your mind.
Oh,
when you hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know.
How do you do it? How do you make sure that you stay grounded? You know, not even...
Stuff like that doesn't make me go, oh, I must be the nut. Stuff like that makes me want to do it tomorrow and the night after, you know. I just want to find out now. I want to find out after this. I want to find out how solid that is. I'm going to see.
Well, he said it, and if he said it and you're able to do it, would you do it?
Yeah.
Okay. The other big
Bells
thing
on.
is just
all day long.
She's so amazing. You could see her smile shift when she heard that Prince wanted to perform with her. She kind of got back into like a bad mood when she was like, you know what? I don't know if this is legit because honestly, I wouldn't trust this reporter guy either. But actually, Amy did end up performing with Prince. Literally a dream come true. I wish there was better footage out there honoring this for her, but at least she got to do it, and that's what matters. This brings us to Amy's secret wedding to Blake, which obviously shouldn't have been a secret, but it was probably a secret for good reason because they were probably not good for each other, as you guys can tell. A month after their wedding, Amy appeared to be spiraling, according to this article. During an interview with US rock magazine Spin, the singer used a piece of mirror to carve the words "I love Blake" on her stomach. That August, she was rushed to the hospital where she later had her stomach pumped because of all of these medications and substances she was taking. This guy was not a good influence for her. That happened on August 8th when she was rushed to the hospital, and actually at this point her record label was trying to put her into rehab, but she was saying no. This actually led to Amy checking into rehab the first time ever. August 14th, 2007, she checked into the Causeway Retreat with her husband Blake, but unfortunately as soon as they both get out, both of them start using again. I really feel like they probably should have been separated for their treatment, but I guess Amy wanted him to come with. In fall of 2007, Amy had a European tour going on, but when she was in Norway in October 2007, an anonymous tip, some type of snitch, led the police to Amy's hotel room. At this point, she was arrested and held overnight for possession of the good green that's starting to become legalized, so she probably shouldn't have been arrested for that type of substance. At this point, her husband and a third party were also arrested in jail. They all got out the next day. Her husband Blake went through a lot criminally. Like honestly, that could be its own video because there's so much to unpack here, but let's talk about the time he really got in trouble. Just 6 months after the couple got together, he was arrested for getting into a fight with a pub landlord, and then later on trying to pay off people to not talk about the situation and to be on his side. There's actually video evidence of this situation out there on the internet, so it's obviously not cool, and he was sentenced to 27 months in jail over this. Meanwhile, Amy Winehouse continued to sell millions of records. She won those 5 Grammys that we talked about, and she dedicated those awards to her parents and to Blake.
To my mum and dad. For my Blake incarcerated.
This guy was definitely overhyped in Amy's life. Like, she thought he was really amazing and great, and he really wasn't. Let's talk a little bit more about that November 2007 arrest that left him in jail for 27 months because he tried to bribe $400,000 to a bartender who he got physical with. Following his arrest, Amy actually showed up to a concert in mid-November, and she was obviously really intoxicated, and the crowd was booing her away. This actually led to Amy canceling all of her appearances and all of her shows for the rest of 2007. But then 1 month later, she was actually arrested for trying to get involved in her husband's case. She later blamed her husband's legal issues for the reason why all of her tour dates and everything had to be canceled. But something good did happen in November 2007 because Amy's album Frank was finally released in the United States, like what, 4 freaking years after it came out. It didn't do that great on the American charts. I think it hit like number 33, but like, who was really expecting it to? Because it's already been out for some time. Back to Black was her major hit. 2007 was an extremely hectic year for Amy, and honestly, it only got worse in 2008. On January 17th, 2008, Amy actually got in trouble after stopping at a local shop in London on her way home from visiting her husband, who was in prison at the time. Amy actually blew off some steam, supposedly. Honestly, I feel like she was defending herself against a photographer. All these photographers really getting into her business. She was really followed like Britney Spears status, where it was not safe to go out in public. So she squared up and fought one of these paparazzis. 5 days later, after that incident, Amy got in some more trouble because the Sun actually posted a video of her supposedly smoking some substances. She was 24 at the time. She was in and out of rehab, and it was clear that she did not know the video was being taken and that she was using some type of thing that she probably shouldn't have. 2 days after the Sun released that video, Amy was back into rehab, and actually Scotland Yard was launching an investigation into the footage that showed her, hitting something, and actually she admitted to taking 6 like Valiums or something. I think I've heard of Valium, but I don't really know too much about it. I know that 6 doesn't sound all right. She was actually transferred from the rehab facility to a hospital because she was in such bad shape and extremely dehydrated. 2008 was truly a roller coaster for Amy because less than a month after her whole rehab situation, she was awarded those 5 Grammys, and she was at the peak of her career. Actually, 2 days after the Grammys, her mother Janice put out a statement saying that Amy is going back to rehab and she's really focusing on her health. It actually was looking really bright for Amy at this point. I mean, she just won all of these awards. She's going back into rehab. She's doing really well. And her mother, Janice, was really pleased and relieved that she was finally getting the help she needed. But of course, all good things come to an end. And especially when it comes to people with substance issues, I think that's something that like the laws need to work on because you get in trouble for them. And then like you get some time and then you get help, but then you get more trouble for them. Okay, pretty much what happened was that Amy went to rehab. She definitely got better, not fully recovered by any means, but she was later on arrested again because of her whole possession situation. I believe this is connected to the video that the Sun put out, but it's not entirely clear. This went down in May 2008, and it was all over possession of a controlled substance, so something that she wasn't supposed to be having. But like I mentioned, it's a true roller coaster, up and down, because on June 27th, 2008, Amy Winehouse delivered a soulful performance at Nelson Mandela's 90th birthday party, and honestly, it was so beautiful. I watched the whole concert, and if you guys have not seen it, I definitely encourage you to go and check it out because it's some of Amy's best work. But by the end of 2008, her relationship with Blake was ending. As you guys know, they had the whole divorce. He filed for divorce. It was over, and she was actually spending a lot of time in St. Lucia, which seems to be an island that she really thrived on. On January 16th, 2009, Amy went to St. Lucia for 2 months, and she did really well there. There's actually a huge jazz culture, so she fit in perfectly. But as soon as Amy gets back to work, the trouble starts up again. I don't know if she wanted to be working and performing. I feel like she really thrived on this island and they should have just kept her there as long as they could. But on March 6th, 2009, Amy got in trouble for punching a fan at the Society Ball in London. A few days later, she was actually barred from entering the United States over this and cannot perform at Coachella. There's actually video evidence of Amy getting physical with this fan, but she ended up pleading not guilty and the charges were acquitted. Maybe because she said that the fan started throwing things at her or hitting her or something. I don't really know, but if anyone did anything to her, she has every right to get back at them. 10 days after that incident went down, Amy actually decided to go back to her happy place because there was going to be the 18th annual St. Lucia Jazz Festival. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Lucia, right? St. Lucia? I should probably look that up.
St. Lucia.
Okay, yep, that sounds right. That sounds right. You guys always pick on me for pronouncing things incorrectly, which I get it. I'm just horrible at, I don't know what I have issues, okay? Anyways, let's get back to Amy because when she was away on the island living her best life, there was actually some legal stuff going on in the UK. Like I mentioned earlier, Amy was hounded by the paparazzi. I mean, look at this photo of these paparazzis just outside her home. So she was trying to stop this mess. Fortunately, Amy won this battle because the judge put out an order that no paparazzis can take pictures of Amy in her home, outside of her house, or any of her family members. The photographers can actually face prosecution if they follow Amy Winehouse by any means or approach her within 100 meters of her new home, which is very close to her childhood home. But it doesn't look like Amy was planning on going back anytime soon. Actually, one of her publicists said that she was going to be in St. Lucia for the foreseeable future, so she really enjoyed it and she loved performing jazz there. Unfortunately, Amy's winning streak didn't last long because while she was in this drug program, she was still using. Actually, on June 27th, 2009, Amy Winehouse's parents, Janice and Mitch, made a public plea to get their daughter the help she needs, claiming she was still drinking while at this program. Exactly a month after that, Amy and Blake finally call it quits when it comes to their relationship, so the public learns at this point that they were actually divorcing and it was not good. But that was by far the best choice for Amy to disconnect from this guy because he and she knew they were not good for each other. But this did not keep Amy out of trouble. She was still so entrenched into her issues with her substances. She's got the whole media against her and she got in trouble. On December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas in 2009, there was this family-friendly production of Cinderella. She supposedly got into a fight with the theater manager, started pulling their hair and was cussing at them. This happened actually after a man disturbed the singer and asked her to change seats because she was supposedly being disruptive, and that led to all of them fighting and her getting in trouble, which is not good for Amy. Ugh, gosh, we were rooting for you. She did end up pleading guilty to these charges and she was fined about $300, so not much, and she was given a 2-year conditional discharge, so she had to be on good behavior. In March 2010, it looks like things were starting to look up for Amy because she was coming out with a clothing line in collaboration with Fred Perry, which is something that she was extremely excited about. You guys can actually still go shop her collection, which I think is beautiful. The original designs, period. I think this is an amazing way to honor her, and I think all of the money goes to a foundation that's in her name, which is great. And I think she was really proud of this work, even though the media like E! News made fun of the way that she dressed and her coming out with a clothing line. I think it was great for her. She also had a new love interest. Actually, in June 2010, she was seen going out and about with Reg Travis, which is actually a British film director, and he seems far more proper than her last ex-boyfriend, ex-fiance, or ex-husband. Holy. From my knowledge and the research I looked up, actually Reg didn't seem to have any issues with substances, so he was a clean man who had a good job and who was a good balance for Amy. But this didn't stop her from her addiction issues. She could not escape them. On June 16th, 2010, The Sun reported that Amy was back in rehab after a heavy drinking session. Even though though Amy was back in rehab, she was still working. And honestly, I don't think she ever took off enough time to properly recover. But there is a video clip I want to show you because she was working really hard on her Fred Perry, line. And there is some paparazzi footage of her with her father out in public. And you can tell that she's not doing too well, but still she has her dad like literally right with her. Why aren't these people protecting her? That's her father.
Me on my own or something?
Yeah.
Dad, get in. Like, get in wherever you want to be. This is all an advert for Fred Perry, by the way.
Is it?
Well, this is Fred Perry little like plain suit, little romper suit, and yeah. You know, I've got for a Perry deal, innit? So all the stuff's going to be coming out in about. It might be in stores now, actually.
Do you actually design
My
it?
first one. Yeah, I design everything. Like, so I think, yeah, this was in my first collection. It's cute, innit? I love it. Like, I love it.
Oh my gosh, I'm literally blushing over here. The way that she says is cute in it. It is so cute. Oh my gosh, Amy, I have to play that clip again.
Collection. It's cute, innit?
But as you guys can tell, Amy did not seem 100% well in that video clip, but she was still working a ton. And actually, she was working throughout to 2011, and you can tell that she was visibly struggling. Actually, there was a concert in January 2011 she was performing at, and she was falling all over stage, and the band was just kind of like letting it happen. So that's obviously scary to see Amy spinning around and falling onto stage. Like, what's going on here? Why are people trying to protect her? I mean, in May 2011, guess what? She's back in rehab again. And really, this is no blame to Amy. Amy should not feel bad about this at all. This is all to blame her management, her team, pushing her to continue working until she wasn't fully recovered. She was never fully recovered. So she was back in rehab May 27th, 2011, again, for issues with alcohol. And I just think that, like, it's just, why so many rehab trips? Not Amy's fault, but these other people who never actually took care of her when she went there. It's like she goes to these places, gets a little bit better, goes and performs for a couple months, and then goes back, and then back and forth, back and forth. But this instance, actually, she didn't really last long at all. On June 2nd, 2011, she checks out of the Priory Clinic just days after checking in. Her rep insists that she did not bail too early from the rehab facility, saying that she finished her assessment and was raring to go on her European tour. I'm sure that her label and all of her business people were really excited for the money she was going to bring in and really didn't care that she only checked out a few days after rehab. Seriously, I feel like they treated rehab as a way to go and, like, tune up the car and get it ready for the road trip. And then once it breaks down again, let's go fix it and then get it ready for the road trip rather than actually fixing like an issue. You know what I mean? This brings us to that haunting performance in Belgrade, Serbia, where she was obviously really not okay on stage. It was June 18th, 2011, only a few weeks after getting out of rehab, and it was clear that she was not good. She was getting a bunch of booze. She was totally out of it, but the band just keeps playing like there's no problems at all. 3 days after that incident, her team announces that she is pulling out of her European tour and she's going to be focusing on her recovery. Will she actually be? I think it's another excuse. Because as you guys know, unfortunately, less than a month later, about a month later, she was found July 23rd, 2011 in her home. And the way that they write about her back when she passed away is almost as bad as they always have been writing about her. Like, you think when you pass away, people are a little bit nicer, but they really weren't. This article wrote that she was found in her dirty, dingy home on July 3rd, and they announced that she accidentally passed away from alcohol poisoning and her blood level was 0.416%, which is a lot. There are a lot of conspiracies when it comes to Amy's passing. Like, what actually happened? Was it her team? Was her father involved? There's a lot out there. If you guys want me to do another video really diving into the conspiracies of it all, we can, but something that's not a conspiracy was her relationship with that guy, Reg Travis, because he was really hurt over her passing, of course. 3 days after Amy was found, he spoke to the press and said that he lost my darling who he loved so much. Keep in mind, guys, that he was totally different from Blake and he was way more responsible. Speaking to the newspaper, the 35-year-old explained how his world came crashing down after the shocking news of his girlfriend's passing. The last 3 days have been hell. We've suffered a terrible loss and we want peace now. I can't describe what I'm going through, and I want to thank so much of all the people who have paid their respects and who are mourning the loss of Amy. Such a beautiful, brilliant person and my dear love. I have lost my darling who I loved very much. Oh my gosh, it makes me so sad. At this point, him and Amy were together for 2 years, and actually he got the blessings from her parents to be with her because they said that he was a calming influence on their daughter, the polar opposite of her ex Blake, who everyone blames Blake for introducing these hard substances to Amy. Amy actually did not have a will when she passed away, so her fortune was given over to her parents. Her $5.3 million fortune was left to Mitch and Janice. I don't exactly know how they split that up, maybe 50-50 because they're not together, but it's not really clear. But a lot of people blame Amy's father, Mitch, for her passing, which makes sense in my mind. He was such a negative force in her life, and a lot of people cite that song and that lyric in Rehab where she says, "My daddy thinks I'm fine," and he was the definition of an enabler. But recently, there's been more discussion around Mitch and his relationship with Amy because the anniversary is coming up, and actually there's a new documentary coming out that's going to be explosive and include all of these things. Amy's mother actually defends her ex-husband, Mitch, because she claims that he, tried his best. Even though he was very involved in Amy's career and managing her, he tried his best. She told a radio station that it wasn't Mitchell's fault. You didn't tell Amy what to do. Nobody did. We all do wrong things sometimes, and the easy target was Mitchell. But all of us put in so much effort to help Amy. Mitch, her father, admitted that he's made some mistakes with Amy's career, but he told a magazine in 2018, it's up to the person in recovery and they have to want to get help. It's all about the person who is dealing with their issues. She had all the support. She had a loving family. If my nan came down from hell and told Amy to get help, she would have said, okay, maybe next week. So she wasn't listening to anyone, according to her father. But at the same time, if he was involved in her tours, in her business, he could have just halted everything until he knew his daughter was okay. So I'm a little bit sus when it comes to that. But actually, her stepfather has spoken out as well, Janice's current husband, because of this whole documentary coming up. He actually got really emotional talking about this because he was supposedly the person who told Amy's mom that she passed away. Janice actually told the reporter that she remembers the last words she said to her daughter before her passing. She said, "I remember this exactly. I said to her, 'Amy, I love you.' And she said, 'I love you too, mommy.'" Oh my gosh, so sad. But ever since Amy's passing, there hasn't been too much released about why or what could have changed or who's to blame or did she actually pass because of alcohol or other substances. So there's still a lot of open questions here and floating around. You cannot deny, though, that Amy's legacy lives on. I mean, she has a sound that nobody's been able to repeat. She had stories to tell in her music that could only come from her relationship with Blake and all the struggles she went through. It actually disgusts me how people have tried to take Amy and then reinvent her to resell her. At one point, they were trying to do a hologram situation where she would go and tour as a hologram. Actually, Blake has been very active in the press and he was really against that situation. He did not want them to use her like that, and he doesn't think it's okay, which honestly, Blake, you can go and sit down, whatever, we're done with you. But also at the same time, I like this defense because I feel like I don't want to see a hologram of Amy either. You cannot replace her. Don't try to make her into a robot and have her perform for us.
I think if anyone wants to see Amy on stage, that opportunity has been and gone. I object to every sort of opportunity that's been made by it, but it seems that since Amy passed away 7 years ago, there's been 3 films, one in the making, a hologram tour. To me, I can't see many other reasons for this tour.
I do believe that Blake is probably a changed man. I mean, you would think that he's learned a lot of lessons from this. And it's so unfortunate that he had to bring down Amy with him, but we can't really like blame Blake, we can't blame her parents, and we can't blame Amy. It's all so situational. It's all like, you know, the wrong person, the wrong time, the right place, whatever that saying is. I feel really bad that, you know, Amy had to go this way and had to battle with the paparazzi so much. It was never easy for her. It really makes me think about Britney Spears and her battle with the paparazzi and how Britney could have been lost really easily. I mean, thinking about how much stress and pressure they had on themselves, I mean, them using, it would only make sense to be using when she's so stressed and upset in her toxic relationship. It's all really easy to access. She's got the money to buy them. So there was a lot wrong with the situation, and I hope that we can learn from Amy. I want us as a society to protect those who are in bad places. If you see a star, if you see anyone who is struggling with substance problems, don't make fun of them. Don't go and try to, you know, laugh about their situation. We need to serve them caring and loving support. And I do believe our generation has changed a lot these past 10 years. I believe that if it was all going down nowadays, things would have been different because people wouldn't have allowed Amy to go up and self-sabotage and allow the world to watch it. Her family did, her husband did, her team did. I don't think the world should have allowed that to happen, and I hope that we can learn from her legacy and appreciate the sadness that goes along with it, because it's a sad situation, but it's a beautiful person and beautiful art that will live on forever. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I've been recording, it's like 1 a.m. right now, but I've been doing so much research for this video. I really tried, so I'm sorry if people watch this and are like, that was awful. That was horrible. I am sorry. This was one of the hardest videos I've made next to my Anna Nicole Smith video. And I really enjoy making these videos because I love Amy so much. And I feel like we owe her like this. We owe her to acknowledge her existence, to appreciate her legacy, and to continue everything living on. Like, I want my children to know who Amy Winehouse is one day. So I love her so much, and I'm sending good vibes to her. I love you, Amy Winehouse. I really do. It makes me like emotional because her music has put. Let's just get out of this. Let's just end this video because her music has touched a lot of souls, including mine. And you guys know my favorite song is Tears Dry on Their Own, which I just think is such an anthem. And thank you, Amy, for that song. And thank you for your existence. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you have video ideas for me, here's my email below. I'm literally crying. I mean, it's just, this whole story was just so tragic, so tragically beautiful to see her just like going through it all. And it's just like, I don't know. You wish someone was there to save her. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Again, I tried really hard to do the research on this, but it's so tough. So thank you so much for watching this entire video, and I will see you guys in a new one soon. Bye, guys.